You'll be probably wondering why I'm this red and I look like a fucking lobster.
My eyes!
This week I want to be talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the series that is being released on a weekly basis on Disney+. I think it's definitely not at the highest standards when it comes to the MCU series that we've been getting with either Netflix or Disney+.
That's great. I can't believe you did that.
Of course, WandaVision was such a big surprise and I had no idea that it could be this good and that they could take so many different risks. But I think even when you look at WandaVision and the way that it was structured, you could already see like a lot of problems. You could basically see that Disney was trying to experiment with the format and trying to see if the interest was there and if people were still engaging with the MCU. And the truth is, yes, of course we're engaging. WandaVision proved that point exactly. So many people released different theories. Literally every single week there will be a new set of different hints and different Easter eggs hidden in every single episode. This was like nerd culture at its best because people were having so much fun deconstructing everything. People started actually deconstructing way too much when it comes to WandaVision. But it's also because Disney was actively hiding things within the plot, within the characters, and within different objects and thematically speaking and different colors that were being used and reused. WandaVision was satisfying, but you could really feel that Disney didn't know exactly what they were trying to achieve, especially because people were expecting so many different reveals. And I think now you can really see it when it comes to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're at the second episode right now. I'm actually quite surprised they didn't decide to release 2 episodes at first and then go on a weekly basis like they did, for example, for WandaVision. I think it would have been a really cool idea, mostly because the first episode was incredibly slow. It was setting up all the different characters and trying to basically convince us of the idea that Winter Soldier and Falcon could be the 2 main characters of an entire series. And everything that they did with the Winter Soldier was incredibly well done. And I think it was already well done in the MCU when it comes to the films themselves, especially when you think that Captain and the Winter Soldier, when it comes to that movie, the second Captain America movie, Bucky was literally one of the main characters of that film. He wasn't just a sidekick like Falcon was and has been for so long in the MCU. He was an actual character that had been through a lot of traumatic things, and psychologically speaking, I think that Bucky is a really interesting character, and I think in the first episode we really see that. We really get a glimpse of what if all the trauma that he went through and how he's trying to repair himself emotionally and mentally. On the other hand, we've got Falcon, who I don't think he has much of a personality. He doesn't have as much of a personality as other secondary Marvel characters. I think they're doing a really smart thing when it comes to addressing all the race issues in America, and doing it through him. But that is basically the only thing that character is going with his life. He's just being used as a vessel to talk about race issues in America, or at least for now, that's the feel that I have with that character. I think it's important. I think it's a really cool thing to do, especially because when you consider Black Panther, Wakanda is a country that is completely separate from everything else. It's secluded, you know, from contemporary society, which means that of course they wouldn't have dealt with racism in the same way that African American people would on a daily basis in the United States. So it makes sense, you know, to have a character to address those kind of issues. Now people are going to perceive him only as that, only as the voice for the black community, for example, and I think that would be a bit of a shame. They of course introduced the new villains and we still don't know exactly what's going on. It looks like eco-terrorists, which we've seen in other Marvel films as well, and other superhero films and blockbusters in general. I think it's really easy to mess that up because it's been done so many times. Just the idea of having a villain that doesn't like society as it is and wants to create a new society, and of course you have to go through desperate and violent measures to actually get the goal, you know. For now we don't really have a leader when it comes to this terrorist group. In the second episode we see we get to spend more time with them, but they're still being used in mainly action sequences. We haven't had the time to actually try and relate to them, and I think when it comes to this new phase of Marvel, I think they have to create more three-dimensional villains that we actually can stand behind, sort of. For me, the second episode really shows that this idea of Marvel experimenting with the series format, I think it's a bit dangerous, and it's mostly because they're trying to recreate the buddy cop 80s sort of vibes.
And this wasn't a case of sour grapes, it was a case of sour milk!
When it comes to the relationship between Falcon and Winter Soldier, and the problem is it comes out of nowhere. First of all, they don't have to work together. It's not written anywhere that they have to work together. Plus, I feel like across the different films, they've managed to create a bond of friendship through Captain America, and so it would make sense for them to actually be more friends than ever, just because of their mutual loss of their best friends, you know? It's very gimmicky and it feels very forced. In the second episode, especially the scenes where they're confronting the therapist and they're going through this kind of weird staring match, and it just doesn't work. It's not funny, it's not compelling from an emotional or psychological point. It feels very stupid that they introduced a new Captain America only for him to turn against them at the end of the second episode already.
A word of advice then. Stay the hell out of my way.
Even though at the beginning he was like, I want to try and help you, I want to be the best version of Captain America that I can be. And he was trying to help them out, of course. And by the end of the second episode already, he was like, oh, you don't want my help? So fuck you then. I'm just gonna make your life a fucking nightmare, and it's gonna be really difficult for you to actually save the day now. That felt so cheap, and there are so many different things that felt cheap about the two episodes when you put them together. The action sequences, I think it's mind-blowing how badly choreographed they are. Maybe the introductory one with Falcon flying a bit everywhere was alright, but like when it comes to the combat sequences and the fist fights, especially the one during the chase sequences on the camions, but it's different levels of bad. And I think that's why I wanted to make this video, because I had a look once again at Captain America Winter Soldier. I had a look at all the different fighting sequences, and it's not like that anymore. It's really not like that. First of all, we have no idea why this Captain America would be able to accomplish so many incredible things without having any kind of powers. We have no idea. Of course, maybe it could be a reveal that is done in the next few episodes, but for the time being, he's doing a better job as a superhero than both of them, than Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And this makes no absolute sense. This makes no absolute sense because Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they've literally fought against Thanos. They fought against those really weird six-armed creatures that he threw in Wakanda. They already had to work together, so it makes no sense that they would be so bad at fighting against these eco-terrorists who maybe have had their powers for like a couple of months, because of course otherwise we would have known of the attacks a lot sooner. So it seems so the show is actually signaling us that these people have had their powers not for a long time, and they're showing us that these two heroes, they've been downgraded and they don't know how to fight together anymore. Even individually speaking, they don't know how to fight. And when you look at the scene from Winter Soldier, especially the highway sequence, which is so beautiful. It's so really well edited. There is so much energy in it. And if you look at the arm, if you look at the Winter Soldier's arm, you can really see that because of the mechanics, because of how it works, he can control different levels of power. And you can really see it when, for example, he's fighting against Captain America and he thrusts his knife against him and his arm gets stuck next to the shield, right? And then you can hear the sound effect of the power on his arm being put to like 100 or something like that. And you can see that basically his arm just goes, it goes like that into a van, and then Captain America has to slide and the knife follows him in the same way, almost threatening to cut him, right? So this is the amount of power that this mechanical arm has. When they gave him the arm, I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't give him something less powerful, especially because they were preparing for Infinity War and Endgame eventually. So it makes no absolute sense that he wouldn't be able to fight all these different superpowered beings. These people are actually really powerful, and they're gonna have to all get together to beat them. But just because of everything that has been built up in the MCU, this is of course not possible. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's something that it's really hard to understand, logically speaking, that these two people would be so bad at their job. And you could maybe try to argue that when it comes to the Winter Soldier, he's not really there emotionally speaking, and that's maybe why he's trying not to hurt people like in the past. But at the same time, imagine like the setup. You're in this chase scenario, jumping in between two different cars against superpowered beings. Would you actually be able to stop yourself from like hurting others? I don't think so. Honestly, like it has good intentions when it comes to addressing the trauma that he's been through, but I feel like if that is the only reason that they use to explain why these two people are just so bad at doing at just fist fighting a couple of people, then I'm not really sure that the show is going into a good direction. The other thing that I really didn't like is, of course, Captain America being recast. I really hope that they're self-aware about it and they do something like in The Boys, and they try to make some commentary when it comes to how the public really needs like a symbol right now to hide themselves behind, to represent America and the best qualities of America. If the series ends up being a series about Falcon becoming Captain America, then it could be an interesting thing. But there are so many different things that are just that feel very clunky when it comes to how Marvel has been handling the different shows. For me, for example, if we go back to WandaVision, just the fact that they revealed that Quicksilver wasn't actually Quicksilver was not the Quicksilver that we know from the X-Men universe. It was just a random person. For me, that was like a big, literally, fuck you. Like a huge, big fuck you at the fans, being like, we can show you so many different cool things that you can theorize about. I didn't really feel like it was a cool thing. It didn't really feel like a meta thing. It literally felt like we own Fox, and we decide when we do things at our own pace. So, fuck you. So I really hope that when it comes to Loki, and I think it's going to be released in June if nothing shifts around. So is it going to be released at the same time as Black Widow? Probably, I think so, because they announced that it's going to be released on Disney+. I really hope that Loki is as weird as WandaVision, and that it doesn't really follow the same vibes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because I'm afraid that it's going to be another kind of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.-y kind of show, you know, where the stakes are incredibly low and that they try to tone down all the powers so that the threats can feel even more threatening, even though they're actually not. Let me know what you thought about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Honestly, my expectation is incredibly low when it comes to this show, and but let me know in the comments if you actually enjoyed the first 2 episodes and if there are some things that you liked about it. Don't forget to subscribe if you still haven't. Leave a like because it's always helpful. I'm Patrick, and this is Torn Apart.
Can you move your seat up? No.
You know, he kind of tried to kill me.